Middle school. Most everything that I share on these webinars, hopefully are some things that regardless of the grade that you teach, hopefully you can find some little nugget of information that would benefit you in your classroom, whether you're a kindergarten, first, second grade teacher, or maybe you're in the intermediate grades, middle school, high school, or even beyond. So hopefully today you guys can go home with some information, something that maybe you can use in your classroom because I I love teaching drones, but there are so many other avenues, I guess, little paths that you can take to get to teaching drones. And so, yes, drones are expensive. Every school district's a little different on what they allow as far as flight, things like that. So, what I'm going to show you today is a plethora of really just things that if your school district is like, you know what, too much of a liability, we're out on drones, we can't fly those. I get it. There are some, we fought that battle for a little while. But gosh, drones are used in so many areas now, so they start to see, that there are some benefits to teaching students drones. It's just another way to incorporate some of those problem-solving skills, technology, just some of the science standards, things like that. So there's so many career paths that you can use drones with. And so today I'm excited because I have talked about kayaks and I've talked about catapults on these webinars before. So today is kind of really tying in a lot of information that from previous projects that, again, you could use as almost a longitudinal lesson, I guess, if you want to incorporate different things. Again, depending on the grade level that you teach, it's all going to be a little different for each person, and that's okay. So we just really, the goal obviously is just to get kids excited about learning. And so drones is just, when you mention the word drones, I mean, their eyes light up, their ears are perked, and everybody is just super interested in that because it's not, drones are something that you just don't see every single day as far as in the classroom setting. You don't see them every day, but a lot of people have them. So you can go to Walmart and you can buy the little $5 drones that are in your hand, little microscope type, little microscopic drones, this real small ones. You can get, decent sized ones, you can get big ones. And of course, some of you probably know someone who uses a drone for agricultural purposes, things like that. So there's a lot of, talk, a lot of technology that's out there right now with drone use. Agriculture, again, living in Northwest Tennessee, we are in a rural school district, as most of you probably are if you're in the West Tennessee area. Gosh, so farmers use drones a lot. I know, like, even wedding photographers will use drones. Real estate agents, I have a couple of friends who are in the real estate business. They use drones just to get an aerial view, different things like that. But for the classroom setting, you may be wondering, like, well, what benefit will drones, how would they benefit my students? And so to kind of answer that, I start my students out in sixth grade. And again, this is just how I roll. You guys may have some amazing other ideas, things that might work. And so I'm just going to kind of show you, like I said, a plethora of things that works for us at our school. And again, we're sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, but hopefully you can find some things or maybe get some ideas from some of the things that I'm going to show y'all that you can incorporate into your classroom. So I think everyone since the beginning of time has been intrigued with flight in some way, shape, or form. So, all the way going back even before the Wright brothers, I think Da Vinci made some kind of a, kind of helicopter type propeller thing that he was trying to invent. Of course, the Wright brothers, of course, that was the beginning of flight. And so I think even as a kid, gosh, I remember my brothers and I was the youngest, so I had two older brothers. We would even use our bicycles and create ramps and try to jump as far as we could in the air. And so it's just, I don't know, natural instinct maybe to want to be able to fly, a certain distance or whatever. And so, man, with the technology that we have today, there's a variety of ways. There are a variety of ways that you can test some of those things, and in a safe way, you can bring some of those things into the classroom. So I'm going to try to share my screen here because I do want to show y'all a few of the things that kind of lead up to drones. Now, stay with me here because I'm going to kind of take you around the world a little bit before I get to the actual drone, because there are so many things, again, depending on your grade level. I wouldn't advise, just my opinion, I wouldn't advise elementary students maybe to fly drones outside or even racing drones inside, which is what I'm going to show you guys that we use at the middle school. But if you're elementary, you might see some of these things that are like, okay, I could use that in my classroom and I could use that in my classroom. So I'm going to make an attempt, and Shauna, help me out here. I need your help every time I do this. So I'm going to click share here, and hopefully you guys can see my screen here. Let me go down here. Okay, so are y'all seeing the screen right there where it says drone? Can y'all see that, Shauna?
Not yet, but it may just take a second sometimes to show
Okay.
up.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, we see it now.
Okay. Yay. Okay, good. So I'm going to take you. So I try to keep up with everything in video form. We make presentations and things. And so I have this already. So one thing that I like to do, and I'm just going to let this kind of play and I'm going to narrate a little bit, is I do something called balloon jousting. Okay. So balloon jousting is just the beginning of understanding thrust and understanding flight. I think everybody knows that if you take a balloon and you blow it up and you let it go, you know, it's exciting. Where's it going to land? All of those things. So we're trying to, in this project here, we're trying to, if you're looking at the screen here, we're trying to harness the power, the potential energy that is in a balloon and the thrust that, you know, obviously comes out of the end of it. We're trying to harness that by, you can notice here on the screen, this is balloon battling. And so you can see these girls here. So they have a balloon, but then we've added a shish kebab skewer just to kind of create some excitement. But again, they're learning the potential energy that's stored in a balloon, the elastic potential energy. And then so we have, I don't know if you can see it, but we tape not only a shish kebab skewer to our balloons, but we also tape a straw. And that straw, a string is fed through that. And of course, as you just saw just a second ago in that video right there, the balloons glide on the straw. So it's controlled. So the balloon is just not going all over the place. It's controlled and it stays on the string. So the first step of this is just understanding the potential energy that is in a stored object that can fly, obviously, with a balloon. Oh, and ended up getting it. Okay, so then we go into battle. And so now you're taking that potential energy, it's in a stored balloon, which is, you know, everybody can get their hands on a balloon. It's stored in the balloon, and then we put those on a string. And of course, the objective is to pop your opponent's balloon. See if we can get us a winner here. 1, 2, 3, fight. Okay, so you kind of see that's kind of the beginning stages. That's my very, very first project that I do with sixth graders when they come to Northview Middle School. So then I go from understanding balloons, just the thrust, the potential energy, kind of talk about all of those vocab words that are important. Then their next project is we talk about catapults. So let me get to my catapults here. Okay, so here's some catapults. So we build cardboard catapults and we build wooden catapults. So here are some cardboard catapults. You can kind of see what one looks like. And the reason I go from balloon jousting to catapults is because the balloon jousting teaches again about thrust, just about potential energy, elastic potential energy. And then it goes into the catapults where we learn a little bit about trajectory. So now we're actually launching something, we're flying something's flying through the air. So with these cardboard catapults, you can see on the screen here, just very simplistic, trying to hit a target at the end of the hallway. So here's some here.
Ooh, nice shot.
Okay, and then of course we use these for STEM nights and things like that because again, people are just intrigued by flight, and so whether it's the flight of a projectile, the flight of an airplane, the flight of a drone, flight for sure is just something. So we move on from the cardboard catapults into the wooden catapults, and you can kind of see what the frame of these look like. They're simple A-frame catapults, you know, very simplistic screws, nothing crazy. And we power them with bungee cords, and we launch tennis balls at our STEM night. So you can see here, students have targets in front of them. This is kind of what these look like. And you'll see a few being launched right here. And again, this is just teaching trajectory. So we've gone from potential energy in a balloon to trajectory. And you'll see a few different examples here. This is one of our STEM nights. So you can kind of see how this works, right? So students understand that. So that helps just to kind of bridge that learning, right? From balloon jousting, engineering design process into catapults. Now we're launching something, right? So they're understanding flight a little bit more. And then we go into, gosh, you can even go into, I'm sorry. Let me screen share here. Let me go back to where I was. Shauna, hang on just a second. I hope I hadn't lost y'all.
Nope, we're still here.
Okay, there we go. Okay. I couldn't see y'all on the screen here. So just like, and I'm holding up here the balloon with the straw on it, right? So this is what I use for balloon jousting. But now we have a project that you can do. It's called balloon climbing. Okay, so it's the same concept where you have your straw taped to the balloon. And of course, you have it filled with air and you feed the string through the straw. But now the string is vertical. And there are little like you just take a Sharpie and have little benchmark measurements on there. So it may be 5 feet, a little mark, 10 feet, might be another mark, 15 feet or whatever. And so now they're starting to see how a balloon can climb and go up into the air. So again, it's just a vertical string. And so holding that up, you can tape that to the ceiling, you can tape that to a wall, however you want to angle that or whatever. But then you can start to see kind of balloon climbing on strings. So then that leads us into everybody's favorite, probably since school has been a thing, paper airplanes. I think everybody has used paper airplanes in some way, shape, or form. And so every kid loves a good paper airplane. And so I've seen classes use, paper airplanes for distance measurements and math, right? It's just an easy way. Kids make an airplane, they throw it across the gym floor, do some measurements. You can do some cool things with that. And so for paper airplanes, I like to use, this was like super cheap on Amazon, but I bought these electric plane launchers. And so this is what it looks like. So here's the box right here. So the electric plane launcher is basically a couple of spinning wheels right here, and it's consistent on launching a student's airplane. So that way there's no, well, he threw it harder than I did or whatever. So it's just an easy way to feed a whole class set of paper airplanes in between these two spinning wheels. Gosh, I think these, and I may be off on the price on Amazon. I think these were, I don't know, $10, something super cheap. They run on batteries, but it's just a couple of spinning wheels and you feed your airplane through there and it launches. Now, what we do is, of course, our gymnasium is sunken down into the floor. So like when you enter our school, you're almost like on the second level of the gymnasium. So I use these to launch onto the gym floor. So we have a height advantage for our school, but anything that you can, maybe you just put it on top of a table or a ladder or something like that, just to get some height, launch them through the electric plane launcher. And again, you're measuring the distances. You can do lots of, you can incorporate math into it. You can incorporate a lot of things, but just measuring the distances of your paper airplane. Do longer airplanes travel further? So there's lots of questions, lots of things that you can ask your students to intrigue them, to kind of get them interested in flight. And again, that's just one way, because paper is super, obviously super cheap. These electric plane launchers, now you don't have to have the plane launcher. It was just a consistent way for me to test student airplanes on their design. So was your design, because if you get kids to throw them, which a lot of them will, obviously they'll enjoy that. But if you get kids to throw it, you don't really know which plane design actually is the furthest or works the best, because you may have kid A who's an all-star pitcher and they have a more precise throw or whatever versus kid B who hardly ever throws anything. And so they may actually have the better airplane. There's really no way to test that until you can be consistent with it. And that's why I just highly recommend this. I'm not advertising for them on purpose, but just this is just what I use. Again, it's called the electric plane launcher. I got these on Amazon. Just got 5 or 6 of those just to have some backups. So again, going in from balloon jousting, okay, so engineering design process, understanding that, going into the catapults, and then the balloon climbing. So now we're kind of getting into the paper stages, the flight stages of different things. So you can kind of see this. And so then that leads into kind of where I tie in some history and also some ELA standards into this. So I get my students to make just kind of a model airplane. So you can kind of see this one. This is made out of balsa wood. And then we just use heat shrink plastic, and then kind of you can either hydro dip them, you can paint them, hand paint them, however you want to. It's just a simple model of an historical airplane that was used. So I kind of give them a time frame. Let's use the plane from 1940 to 1970, somewhere in there. So let's do some research on it and almost kind of create just a presentation book report with an actual model. So this is kind of fulfilling the PBL standards that we have in our school. And so again, just a very simplified version. It's just balsa wood frame. Okay, so balsa wood, super cheap at Hobby Lobby. You can get it pretty much anywhere. Order it if you're going to buy it in bulk through Amazon. So they just have to find an airplane. How was that airplane used? And so they're just hitting some of those just basic, kind of a basic understanding of the history of some of the airplanes that were used. And so whether it was a World War II plane, a Vietnam plane, something, in between, then these are just some good ways for them to build something, kind of have something to show. It's a model, and then basically understand kind of the history of it and its uses. And so again, flights. So we use these models for that. So then the model airplanes, after they have presented, they give a report, then we move on to something that's a little more exciting. Now, for this next project, you guys have probably seen this before. You may have used this at your school, but they are model rockets. Okay, so this is the model rocket that we use. And the model rocket that we use, I'm going to try to pull this box out here. Very, very cheap, very inexpensive. It's the Estes Educator. So I'm going to hold the box up of what we purchased. Okay, so this is what we got right here. And you can get these on Amazon. Again, it's just a rocket kit. It comes with motors. And I say motors, I use that term loosely. So the motors on a rocket are basically like kind of like a firework, just some kind of like a it has a little fuse on it, and it just allows it to fly. Now, the great thing about these Estes rockets is that they're reusable. So when a student builds one, it's just a cardboard tube, plastic top on it, plastic wings on the bottom. And of course, then your motor would go into the bottom right here. So the motor, like I said, is just a little firework with a fuse on it. And so it comes with a little launching kit, very inexpensive. But you talk about pulling a school together and having something fun to go outside and watch. I taught 3rd grade for 10 years before I came to the middle school. And we had one of our guidance counselors at school would have a rocket club that he did at school with some students that he was working with. And the students would obviously build their rocket. They got to paint it. So this one is painted. They kind of come just standard in like standard colors, but this one is painted. So the students can kind of use some creativity, right? And so that's for a school that might be a STEAM school, incorporating the arts into it. And what he would do is every March, or I'm sorry, one time in the fall and one time in the spring, we would all go outside and watch the rocket launch. And so the entire school, it was kind of like a really cool assembly. We'd go out on the playground. Again, this was a grades 3 through 5 school that I taught at. And we would go on the playground and, watch these students. And of course, the students who constructed these were just so proud. They were just so proud of their rockets. Now, if you were to go to Hobby Lobby and buy just an individual rocket kit like this, they're about, I don't know, $10 maybe, something like that. They're very inexpensive. But we bought, like I said, a class set of these, which it was a little cheaper to buy them in bulk. We did that through Amazon, but very inexpensive. And so it is a very safe way. So he would pull his wagon out. The wagon would have the launch pad on there. And then you kind of just feed. It's almost like balloon jousting. You see the straw right here. It's kind of a hard straw. And so a little pole would just kind of slide through that straw. You would slide this down onto it. And then from a distance of about 30 feet away, there's an electric igniter. And it would just ignite that little firework that is in the bottom, which is called the motor. And then this dude would launch up. Now inside, I'm going to take this apart. So inside, when you pull this off, there is a parachute that is inside here. So I'm not going to pull it all the way out. It's kind of in there. So when it launches, that parachute, of course, pops loose and all of your parts come dangling down to earth. So he kind of turned it into a competition. So, if a kid could catch the rocket, as it's parachuting down, if they could catch their own rocket, he had some kind of prize for him, whatever that was. And that was really inspiring. So when I came to middle school, I was like, man, I think I want to try to incorporate that, but at a middle school level. So what can I do to do that? And so, yeah, I see that. Thank you, Leanne, for sharing that website there. So we added, gosh, I forgot what they're called. One of y'all can help me on this one. It measures altitude. So I put, it's not an odometer, it's not a trachometer, it is something ometer. I can't think of the name of it right now, but we would attach those and put those on the inside of this. And when this went up into the air, it kind of attaches to your phone. You can connect it Bluetooth, or they make digital ones that kind of show, but it would tell how high your rocket went into the air. So we would have a competition on whose rocket could go the highest in the air based on that little meter. Yep, an altimeter. Thank you, Leanne. An altimeter. And so we would just measure. So it might show 670 feet into the air. And then if they catch it, they get a bonus 100 points. So 670 plus 100, their score would be 770. And of course, lots of ways to keep track with the data and things like that. And then all they got to do is replace the motor, and then they get to launch again. So you could do this. You could spend a day doing this, but it was just a fun way. Again, understanding flight, maybe the history of it. So just kind of recapping before I get into the drones. So we went from balloon jousting, understanding balloon thrust, all that good stuff, into catapults and launching things that are flying, into the balloon climbing, okay, on the vertical string, into the paper airplanes with the electric motor launch, and then using that into the rockets. And so before we get into drones, this is the last thing that I like to share with my students. And these are, gosh, I think I got these on orientaltrading.com, I believe. So Oriental Trading, you can buy some really cheap plasticky things, but they actually, some of them are useful. And so this is a balloon helicopter. So I'm going to kind of dissect this real fast, but you can kind of see the gist of it. So 3 helicopter propellers. All right, so then it has the balloon attached to this little blue piece. Now, the good thing about this blue piece is that it comes off. And so students can take this, and that's how they refill their balloon. They can either blow on the balloon, or my personal favorite, I'm not a big germ fan. My personal favorite, just go to Walmart and buy a balloon inflator. These things are wonderful. You can just inflate all your balloons for balloon jousting. That's what we use. So it keeps germs. I don't want kids' mouths all over the germ or all over the balloons. And so you just take your balloon, put it on the balloon inflator, it blows it up for them. And so everything's good there. So with these helicopters, once it's inflated, you just basically insert the blue piece back onto the helicopter body. And so this, the force of the air on the bottom of the balloon, the force of the air, will allow the propellers to spin up into the air, and then come back down and land. And you can just repeat that process over and over. But it just kind of shows flight in a different way. So we have launched rockets, yes. We've launched catapults, projectiles, yes. Balloons, yes. This is just a little different. So it's propellers that are spinning vertically, or they're spinning, and of course the helicopter is going vertically. And so this is kind of the final step into before we get into drones, because drones basically do the same thing. They have propellers, and with the angles of the propellers, it allows a drone to go vertically or go horizontally, however you want to do that. And so this is just a cool little way. If I remember right, I think when I bought these in bulk, I think I bought like a class set or so. Super cheap. I think they ended up being less than around $2 a piece. So very, very cheap. They make this really kind of like I don't know, like a duck sound or whatever. Like it sounds like a kazoo or whatever. There is a little, I don't know, something on the end here. But it is just a neat way to get kids excited about it. This is kind of elementary right here for sure. And it could be middle or high school. I think the airplanes could be elementary, middle, or high school. The rockets, again, I taught third grade for a long time, and we use these in the third grade area. So maybe middle elementary might be good for the rockets. So you can kind of see. So again, the models. So all of these things, it's just kind of building the bridge, or connecting the standards from grade to grade, or from even within the same grade. So for us, I'm going to show you kind of how we got into drones, and I'm going to show you a couple of videos of how we use drones at Northview. And again, the very first drone that we bought, I got this actually through a grant that I wrote. There are so many drone grants because companies want students to understand how to use drones, because there are so many uses for them. So the very first one that we bought is from a company called Holy Stone. You can kind of see that there. And this is our drone. It's very simplistic. I think this drone, again, I got a grant for it. I think this drone was, gosh, $200, somewhere in there, $150, $200, which, yes, it is a lot, but it does come with a camera system. And I'm going to show you what the drone looks like. Okay, so here is the drone put together. So you can kind of see the size of it, the comparison of it. It does have a camera on the front. And so the cool thing is that as students, when I started teaching these, students would use these drones, and then we would video basically this landscape around our school property. Now, again, we're in rural Northwest Tennessee, so we have lots of, fields, lots of things around us. And so we also have lots of livestock around us. So I'm going to show you in a video here in a second of how we use these. So these are the drones that we use. They're called quadcopters because they have 4 sets of propellers. And again, a rechargeable lithium battery. So everything's good on that. And so it's just a neat way. So when I brought these out, you talk about, students becoming excited. Again, I wrote a grant for these, so our school did not pay for these. So just wrote a grant. Fortunately, we were able to get it and was able to buy a classroom set of these. So if you kind of explore, there are some grants available out there. You just kind of have to just, look for them. There's different ones. But this one will go a quarter of a mile, and it has GPS coordinates on it. So prior to students, using this, they would need to know how to code. So we use coding in a variety of ways. So most schools do in some way, shape, or form. So you have to code what you want the drone to do and program it to go from GPS point A to GPS point B. Now, we have a McDonald's about a quarter of a mile from our school. And so that's as old timers we use as the crow flies, right? So we have a McDonald's about a quarter of a mile as the crow flies. But if you take the road to get to McDonald's, it's a little more than a half mile. So these could actually fly to McDonald's and then fly back. Now, here's the only, I guess, downfall to the Holy Stone drones. And again, they're not very expensive. And it's kind of one of those, you get what you pay for a little bit in the drone world. So with these, yes, it does have this really cool camera on it. and you connect it to your device, whether that's an iPad or a student phone or whatever the students were using, you can connect it to whatever. There was about a 3-second delay from what the drone actually saw to what you got on your device. So just heads up on that if you're gonna take, I guess the cheaper route, which is fine. It didn't really affect us a whole lot, but if you were trying to zoom in on something really close or get really close to something, you may accidentally hit that item before your video feed would show you that you hit that item because there was about a 3-second delay. So just for general flying purposes, this is really, really good and it's been really useful for us. And I've used these for, gosh, I think 5 years now, and just needed to start to replace the batteries last year. They're lithium ion batteries. So I'm going to show you some video of our students using these and then how we used them, and just kind of explored some different options. So students could kind of get an idea of, okay, there's a career out here for drone flying. So let me kind of share my screen again. Let's see if I can get this video pulled back up. Okay. Share. Okay, can y'all see that video right there? Okay, so let me get this going. I'm going to show y'all drones here. Okay. So I'm sorry, y'all. Hang on, I'm trying to move this, navigate something here. Okay, so with drones, let me take you through drones over here. So these are our hovercrafts. I talked to y'all about that last time. And I think drones is right after this. Now, cars. Hang on, y'all. I'm getting there. All right, so here's drones. So again, those Holy Stone drones that you guys saw, this guy, I purchased them with a grant. We talk about how drones are used to, for agricultural purposes, to protect us in the military. Of course, drones are used a lot at a level. And of course, Amazon is now exploring how to deliver packages with drones. So we talk and explore a little bit about that. And when our students unbox the drones, yes, it's basically putting together a drone kit. There's not a lot of, I don't know, there's not a lot of inventing something, creating something. You're basically putting together a kit, but the actual technology of flying is where the learning takes place. And again, these have a really cool camera on them. And so here are some students flying. All right, now lower it down. Go ahead and lower it down. Good. Okay, so if you're gonna attempt to use drones in the classroom, again, I'm just throwing out my Mike French advice, and you can take that if you think it'll help. But for me, I kind of learned some lessons along the way when flying with drones. So as you can see, that drone was not flying very high off the ground, and that was on purpose. So the cool part about the Holy Stone drones is when you connect it to an app on your phone. You can look at your phone as your actual camera, or if you're close enough, you can just eyeball the drone and see, okay, I can see where, how high it is. But on the app, it will show you how high your drone is off the ground, 10 feet, 15 feet. So for step one, I would tell my students, let's go 5 feet off the ground, go out. Okay, so horizontally, we would go out about 20, 30 feet, whatever that was, and then we would land it. And then once they mastered that, so that's kind of baby steps. Once they mastered that, then we would go 20 feet and then go 40 feet out. And then we would go, so I would never take them past 100 feet, because once you start getting into the 2, 3, 4, 500 feet, then you have to have a drone license. And that's a whole other area that is complicated, and it's difficult to get all your students to get a license, but there are programs that do that. So again, for us, we would 100 feet was kind of the max for us, and 100 feet is it's kind of hard to see that drone when you're on the ground. You look up 100 feet, it's kind of hard to see that. So I like to keep them in sight for sure. Now, if I was using it to model or something like that, I might take it a little bit further out than the students for sure. But I'm going to continue to show you this real fast and show you a couple things.
Keep going. Keep going, but awesome. Okay, go ahead and lower it down.
So you see we're a little higher
Very
here.
carefully, very slowly. Keep going. Great job. Great job.
Now, one of the things that we did, this is behind our school, and of course we're in rural Northwest Tennessee. And so, but behind our school, our high school's FFA has a lot of livestock back here that they kind of tend to as part of their program. And so the objective for this particular day, you can see students over here, so you can kind of see how high we are. So the objective for this particular day was fly your drone over by where the cattle are at a safe, safe distance, so you're not going to scare the cattle, and then count how many cows you can find in the backfield behind our school. So this is the end of our school's property line, and then back here is also owned by our school district, and of course there are cows back there. So I'm going to show you the video of that. They're flying through. You can kind of see how many cows. So you can kind of see the camera quality it's okay. Now this is the front of our school. Now on this particular video here, I'm going to show you, it was, I don't know, 3 years ago. We had gotten a ton of snow. We were out for multiple days, and I kind of got stir crazy. So I was like, I'm going to use the drone and take it to school and just do an aerial view of the school. But when I did this, I came across an idea that I shared with a student. So you'll see me flying this. This is me flying. But I got to looking at the top of our school up here. And so you see all these heaters and air conditioning units, HVAC units right here. So I was watching something of somebody flying drones at one point, and on taller buildings, engineers or sometimes electricians or sometimes HVAC guys, whatever, will use a drone to identify maybe a problem on one of the HVAC units. So you can be pretty precise with the drones and get them really, really close to something. And so before they sent an actual human up on a ladder, 2, 3, 4 stories up on a frozen rooftop, they would fly a drone to look at the HVAC units to see, okay, is the heating chamber coming on for this one? Is this switch, has this breaker been tripped, or whatever the case is? So just a few things that they would identify. So when I was flying this, of course, when we got back to school, I told students, I was like, man, I saw this really cool video, and I saw these folks flying these drones. And so they were using drones basically to keep themselves safe. So they would fly it up there first, then they would kind of hopefully identify what they needed, and then they would go up there. So it just kind of saved trips of going to the roof. So I'm going to continue to show you here some more video of these drones. And again, this is one of our open houses that we had. So on our front lawn, it's just a cool way to just get aerial footage, I guess, of an event that we had here at school. And you can see it's a little bit different. Now, that's what I wanted to show you there. That was our quadcopter drones. Now, we also last year purchased something called rocket drones. Now, rocket drones, I'm going to show you in this video, are small indoor racing drones. Now, what's cool about these is, yes, they have a camera on them as well. They are also quadcopters, so they're almost like baby versions of the ones that we were flying outside. But these are powered through the camera through an Oculus. And so you'll see here in a second. So this girl right here is holding, it's like a VR headset. I call it an Oculus. It's actually a VR headset. So this VR headset connects to this camera on this drone, because these drones go about 25 miles an hour, and they're made for indoor racing. Sometimes on ESPN, like they have something called X Games, and it's just a variety of games that are a little different than traditional sports. And so these racing drones are in the X Games. And so, again, this is just a neat way. So you can see a student there wearing one of those VR headsets. It's connected to this drone. And so he can see whatever the drone sees. So basically, essentially, you become the pilot of that drone. And the reason you need the headset when you're actually racing is because it is things happen so fast, and it's hard to just visualize that if you are racing five other drones. You're not sure which one is yours. And so with this rocket drone kit, again, this was another grant. We bought a class set of these. It came with inflatables for racing purposes. And so let me kind of show you. Here's some students testing it in class,
Great. Good
and you
job.
can see how small they are.
Look at him. There you go, man. All right, left joystick down so you can land it.
Okay, so going from that, I even have a video here of our principal using our drone. So he came into our classroom while we were testing these drones, and he wanted to just try it. So this is literally a 30-second tutorial to kind of show you how easy these are to use. A 30-second tutorial. He has on the VR headset. Here's a drone, and we have students that are trying to help him.
Left joystick down. No?
No, let go of it.
All right, now you're ready. All right, so left joystick up, it's a positive one. Right joystick forward. Right joystick forward. Right joystick up. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Whoop, come here. Come here. All right, drop the left joystick to land it whenever you're ready. The square. Good job. Good job, man.
Okay, so you can kind of see there a little bit about, how easy these actually are. But let me get back to here. Let me see. Okay. Can y'all see me now? Am I back to normal, Shauna?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was making sure my screen wasn't still being shared. Okay. So in those videos, hopefully you can kind of see that kind of the approach that at least we take at the middle school level of, again, balloons to airplanes to rockets to helicopters to quadcopters and then to drones. Now here is one of the headsets that I have here for the drones, and I have one of these drones here in my hand, very small, has a camera on the front. I just call them kind of like a bumblebee drone. The good thing about these is that the remote controls to fly these kind of look like what most kids have at home already with an Xbox or a PlayStation. So they look very similar to it. Again, two joysticks right here, pretty simplistic. But there is, if you go through and I'm not advertising for them at all, but for us, if you go through the Rocket Drone Company, they even have lots of materials as far as things you can teach in class, things that just kind of tie in and are kind of cross-curricular with a lot of different things. But I kind of like to do that on my own, just being honest, with the history of the drone or history of flight, and kind of letting students explore that a little bit. So for us, again, these are just the things that work for us. And I'm sure there are so many other things that are out there that would also kind of allow you to incorporate flight or incorporate drones. And again, your school system may be a little different than mine. We are, I don't know, we have an amazing school district that really just wants us to pursue all of these different avenues because we know that there are so many jobs with drones. I have a neighbor that flies drones for agricultural purposes, and he works for a company, and so he flies. It's a 4 foot drone, so 4 foot by 4 foot. It's a big dude, and he flies that most every single day to measure. I don't know what he uses on there, but I know he measures, of course, the layout of a field and the irrigation and kind of all of these different things. It's a really cool job that he has and gets paid a ton of money to fly drones. So you can get kids interested and get them excited about drone flying or about flight. There's so many things, so many avenues that you can take with these. It's been really beneficial for our students. And again, I think the biggest reward is that students are excited. They're excited. I mean, who wouldn't be excited to fly drones outside? Who wouldn't be excited to race drones indoors? And so we have a STEM night coming up in about 8 weeks. And our drone flying, our eighth graders are going to race those drones at our STEM night, so parents can kind of get it, and our community can kind of get an idea of the technology that our students are using and that they're exposed to. So we're just very fortunate. Again, I know not everyone may have the same, y'all may not have the same access or capabilities or things, but there are some other options to kind of teach that. And that's why I felt it was important today to kind of show you guys the simplistic parts of flight, whether it's a I'll call this a manual drone powered by balloon power. It could be something like that, or the electric plane launcher, like I mentioned earlier. It could be a variety of those things. So you don't actually have to necessarily purchase a drone because they are a little pricey for sure. But again, we were very fortunate to get some grants and be able to purchase some really cool pieces of technology, and our students they absolutely love it. So it just kind of incorporates all of those things that I've taught our students, and then now they get to put that into use by flying drones. So that is all that I have on drones, and I hope maybe y'all learned something a little bit about. Maybe I could do the balloon jousting part, or I could do this part just to get them excited about flight in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure. So hopefully you found something today that might work for you, or maybe inspire you to write a drone or write a grant, for drones, because there are so many out there, and there are a lot of companies that are willing to help purchase some of those. And so maybe you found some information or something I can help with. Please get in contact with me for sure. But something I can help with to maybe. I don't know, go and approach maybe an administrator or maybe a superintendent about maybe why you need to have a drone. I will say the cool part about this is that our drones at the middle school level carry over to the high school level. And if you ever come to a Dyer County High School football game, you will see one of my former students. He's on the sidelines and he is flying a drone over the entire game, like all 4 quarters, and he's recording the game. And so then the coaches, of course, use that for game footage. It's just a really cool way to see, do the players make their block? Where did this receiver go on his route? All of those things. So it's just been really, really beneficial for us. And again, that's carried on into the high school level. So we have a lot of fun with it, but a lot of learning takes place. So again, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. So I'm reading that question there. Do we have to get a pilot? Not for these drones, we didn't. Now, if we were to take the Holy Stone drones that can go a quarter of a mile, gosh, I think their altitude limit was 500 feet or something like that. Then when you get into those high-tech drones that can go extremely high, then you would have to get a license for them. Before you purchase a drone, there is usually a warning with that drone. I know Amazon's real good about putting a warning like a license is required to fly this particular drone or whatever. But if you're just using it for recreational use, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to get the license or anything like that, as long as you stay under a certain amount of feet. And again, for us, we stay under 100 feet, and so there's no need to get a license for that. So But there are, yeah, I see here Heather is saying, looks like took some classes in Memphis or something like that. So, yeah, there are lots of opportunities for sure for drones. Um, so, anyways, hopefully, again, like I said, you guys learn something and maybe something you can take back to your classroom or even take to your administrators to maybe purchase some drones because there are some really cool things to do. And those rocket drones, that's actually like a national competition. You can race. You can even do virtual races where you set your gymnasium up for the course that they tell you, and then another school, 300 miles away would also set their course, their gymnasium up on the same course, and then you could, both race and record those times and things. So there's a plethora of ways to kind of incorporate those. Um, so I'm looking at some questions here on the side. I'd like to try to answer here. So Barbara, you asked, have we ever had any accidents? So yes, I mean, but nothing that's out of what the norm would be. So we had a drone, one of these rocket drones actually. It's just part of technology where sometimes they just lose connection. And so the good news is that the outdoor drones, when they lose connection, they typically have an emergency system that if it loses connection with your phone while you're in the middle of flight, it could, because they feed off satellites. And I discovered that in New Bern, Tennessee, there are 14 satellites almost every single day that are above us somewhere. And so it feeds connection from those because it tells you to look for certain satellites, a certain number, and things like that. So we had one that kind of lost connection, but the outdoor drones will just automatically just go and land on their own safely, but they may go and land in a pond, I mean, if you're over water. But the rocket drones, the ones that are on the inside, the racing drones, we did have one go, what the company called it going rogue. And so, again, lost connection, and it literally from the top of our gym, it went from the bottom to the top and then just slammed back down onto the floor, and it cracked part of the drone. That now they replaced it. They said it doesn't happen often, but it can. Now the good news is that the rocket drones, this is actually the one that came, that broke right here. They sent us a replacement frame for it, so you can kind of see that. But the good news on this is that the wings, the propellers right here, are very flimsy. They're not, I mean, they're not anything that's going to take off a finger or anything like that. Now, if you get on up to the more complex drones, large, like my neighbor has a 4-foot drone. Now they're using propellers that probably would, hurt somebody if the propeller hit. But these are protected. You can kind of see the outside of it. It's protected, unless some kid is just taking their finger and sticking it straight in. And that's just where you got to use your judgment on that. Is this the right age for our students, things like that. So, so we haven't, we
A
haven't had.
shirt to go for Maria Cox. Would you be okay with?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that, please?
I think it was just someone who accidentally unmuted.
Oh, okay, that's okay. So Richard, I think I answered that one. Pilot's license again. I don't teach that, but there are some courses for that for sure. And so I see Heather looks like here got her son took a drone course and got his license. That's awesome. But yeah, so Leanne, thanks for sharing those links. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss a question here, so I think I got them all answered. But again, thank y'all so much for your time and for being excited and interested in drone flight. Again, it just makes school a little bit more fun when you have something like a drone that can kind of help. So that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Are there any other questions from anyone before we leave today? There is a link in the chat, and if you will please click on that link to do the survey. I'm going to show you what that survey looks like on the screen so everyone will know. I've got 700 tabs opened on my computer. Let me find it. Okay. So this is what the screen looks like, and it's called the Innovative Educator Workshop Feedback. And if you'll fill that out, all you have to do is click on the drop down box. We are the Northwest Tennessee STEM Hub in Dyersburg. And then for the name of the session, just put drones with Mike French. And if you'll fill that out, that goes directly to the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, who oversees our grant funding for our STEM programs here at Dyersburg. So filling that out is important. We're actually having a meeting this week about our outreach efforts. And so all of that data is used. We talk about it with our STEM hubs, and then the STEM Innovation Network out of Nashville uses that data as part of the grant reporting process. So having that and having your feedback is important. So filling that out is important to us. If you have further questions for Mike, I'm sure he doesn't mind if you email him. I'll share out that email. This webinar was recorded, so it will be placed on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch it, or if you have a colleague who would like to watch it. And later this week, you will get an email from me with your PDP certificate for 1 hour. And if there's nothing else, thank you guys so much for joining with us today. We appreciate it. And we will see you not next week, but the week after on March the 17th. And we will have Hillary Shannon from Westview High School, and she's going to be teaching, presenting a webinar on tips for teaching STEM 1 in high school. So we hope to see you then. And thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate it today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks.